On this channel, we talk about the biggest lie of our generation, the greatest hoax of our lifetime, the myth of black victimization, and how so many reporters and so many public officials and so many activists are so eager to ignore, deny, condone, excuse, encourage, and even lie about it. That's our great lie, but surrounding every great lie, you need a whole bunch of little lies to kind of hold it up. And the favorite place for the people who are in denial, deceit, and delusion about black victimization, their favorite go-to place to create a steady stream of fiction about relentless black victimization in this country are the college campuses. They just go and have one study after another. We're going to see the latest study about cameras being racist. My first experience with the old camera is racist story came in the my local hometown newspaper of Wilmington, Delaware. And turns out that this isn't a Wilmington thing, by the way, it's a national thing. Turns out the fellas and their lovely ladies don't go to traffic court. Like in San Francisco, 6% of people who live in San Francisco are black. Over 50% of people who don't show up for traffic tickets are black. So this is a thing all over the country. That somehow traffic tickets and failures to appear, this is just one more example of white racism and black victimization. And we know that because we've got all these social science professors and academics cranking out these studies. I just have an image of them putting in a bunch of rotten meat in one end of a grinder and it coming out the other end of a grinder. But here's the interesting thing about social studies, quote unquote social studies. You can't replicate them. I mean, in math, if you do a study on math that says 2 + 2 = 4, we send that out to all the great math geniuses in the world. They come back and they go, yeah, you know what? I've looked at this really, really hard, and 2 + 2 = 4. But when you get all these great studies, it turns out that 75% of them cannot be replicated. Translation: 75% of them are just made up, whatever the professor and the academics and the students want the study to say. That's what the study says. You can't replicate it. 2 + 2 = I don't know what 2 + 2 = 4, 6, 27. That's the condition of social studies. And that's why every day we see a new study in the paper purporting to expose some new way that white people are racist against black people, some new way of demonstrating that black people are relentless victims of white racism. My favorite bogus test, we write about this a lot and Don't Make the Black Kids Angry, are the tests for symbolic racism. They ask you 5 or 6 questions along the lines of, do you believe in affirmative action? Do you believe black people should be given special treatment when they go to college to get into the college? If you answer these things with the attitude that everybody should be taken as an individual and you should be judged as an individual, not as a member of some large collection of grievance groups, then that is proof positive that you are a racist. Lots and lots of studies to show that. You can't replicate any of them, but lots and lots of studies to show that. So now we come to Newsweek magazine, which used to be one of the truly great news sources in the world. And I'm not just saying that because it's an old one. No, I still love Newsweek. I grew up on Newsweek. Let me see your hand. And maybe I was too young to know they weren't playing it straight, but I thought they were. And about 10, 15 years ago, they went off a cliff. They went south. Now they're They sold Newsweek a couple of years ago to $1.
I don't want to shoot you. Put your hand up.
They combined it with that website, The Daily Beast. The person who bought it for $1, it was the husband of Jane Harman. She was a member of Congress. Harman Speakers. He had this Harman audio fortune. So they bought Newsweek for $1.
Put that knife down.
And really, it's not even $1, because when you buy a publication for $1, what you're doing is assuming their debts as well, assuming their pension. So it's really $1 It's really like I gave you $1, but I'm really taking us in the shorts for 200 or 300 or 400 million dollars. So now Newsweek comes out and says police body cameras can threaten civil rights of black and brown people, new report says. I mean, I read it. I don't even think it's worth repeating what this stupid thing says, other than if you catch black people committing crime, that is somehow unfair. We've seen a lot of that over the last 5 years during all these riots in St. Louis for Trayvon, or in Baltimore or New York, when the fellas are out there throwing firebombs, creating riots, creating violence, committing mayhem. When the cops show up in anti-riot gear, you get the reporters to come out and say, yes, the cops in riot gear create riots. Preparing for crime creates crime. This is how gullible, this is how dim, this is how, well, choose your own words. This is the level of discourse we have now when it comes to black people and their criminality so wildly out of proportion. Every day, we need to make up a new excuse for it. And a good chunk of those excuses now are, well, you're not really measuring it right, and your act of measuring it can really cause it. So we see in this video, it's just a bunch of cops in a room. They bring in a taser. When they bring the taser up, the guy tries to fire back. They kill him. That happened in the Bronx. And apparently, I'm saying apparently because 75% of these studies cannot be replicated, but Newsweek says the act of taking a camera into a fatal situation to protect a cop from the inevitable amount of denial, deceit, and delusion that's going to follow these cops around, that threatens the civil rights of black people. God, what a hoax. What a sham. How long will this go on? How long will all of us sit here and hear every day somebody come up to us and go, yeah, Colin, we can't have cameras because cameras just perpetuate lies. In my own little town of Wilmington, they were catching all these people going through these cameras and, on the traffic cameras. And the editorial page, this is a Gannett newspaper. The Gannett the worst chain in the country by far. And that's saying something. The Gannett newspaper chain, they put an editorial up saying, yeah, the cameras are racist because the only people they're catching breaking the law on these traffic lights and the only people who are refusing to appear in court are black. That is proof positive. This is just one big racist deal. Boy, the people at the Department of Education have so much work to do, have so many weeds to pull up. It's way, way, way past time where we can just take a little edger out there and trim around the sides of these weeds. We've got to pull them up. We've got to call it for what it is. Even if that does make a few black kids angry.